It is, folks. Right now, it is time for the interview with Billy Boldt from Thrash Zone. So I'm going to call him up right now, live on the air to get him on. So let's talk to him right now. Enjoy it here on the Metal Mixtape. If he picks up.
Hello.
Hey, is this Mr. Billy Boldt?
Yes, is this the Metal Mixtape?
Yeah, dude, what is up, dude? Welcome to the Metal Mixtape here on KSKQ in Ashland, Oregon, Medford, Oregon, and streaming around the world. How is it going, my brother?
It is going good despite the coronavirus letdown, but you know what? Nothing stops metal, dude. And you're proving that tonight by broadcasting your show just like we do each and every week.
Dude, you know what? You know what I like about your energy is that like you're like an energy drink anytime I talk to you, man. Like honestly, like one of these days I just want to drive up there and like have a beer with you and hang out because like you're just a powerhouse, dude.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you drive up here, we're going to have more than just a beer. We're going to have about 20.
Sounds good, man. After the coronavirus, dude, definitely going to make a trip out there. So how's it going tonight, man?
What's that?
How's it going tonight?
Everything's going great. You know, I'm really excited to be on episode 69 of the Metal Mixtape. And, you know, what exactly did you want to go over this evening that I could share with your audience?
Bro, there's a lot of things we can go over, honestly, but one of the things, dude, is that, so I was telling everybody in the audience that you're a musician, you're a radio host, and, you know, I kind of want to get to the itty-gritty of why you even decided to be on the radio and why you like metal so much. So for all the listeners, you're listening to Billy Boldt. He hosts a show in Washington called Thrash Zone, and dude, and I love your show. Earlier today on the show, I was talking about how I love your energy. You have awesome questions, and you always have awesome guests. And I watch like your live feed on Facebook, and it's just such a family environment. So basically, like first off, what I want to ask is like, so you've been doing this show for like 25 years, I believe.
Okay, well, I've been on the air for, 25 years. I've been doing Thrash Zone. I'm now in my 7th year with Thrash Zone. You know, I started out when I was in San Francisco. I went to college at the College of San Mateo. And the reason why I started radio is, you know, when I was a musician, I was signed to 2 different labels over the beginning of my career. And there was a time there during the 90s where I just kind of got burnt out. So, you know, I thought to myself, well, you know, what am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do with my life from here on out? And I wasn't going to stop music, but I just wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to college and learn radio and television broadcasting. And from there, I started out at the College of San Mateo radio station, which was a jazz station. And I just learned the ins and outs of, you know, running the board and what radio is all about, how to broadcast from there. After 2 years of that, I went on to another college in Los Altos, California called, what was it called now? I can't even remember.
It's all right.
But, you know, Foothill College. I went to Foothill College, and, you know, and that is when it really started to take off because, see, at the college station, at the first one, I had to play, you know, their format, which was jazz, and that was good to learn on. But with, you know, going to Foothill College, I was able to bring my own music to the station and, you know, kind of develop my own style.
Yeah.
That is kind of where it all got really interesting. So what I was doing was I said, well, you know, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to play thrash because that's what I love to play. And, you know, it got really big locally in San Francisco. And, you know, I just went on from there. Well, from that, it gets even more bizarre. I started to intern at a station in San Jose called KOME. And our saying was, don't touch that dial, it has come on it. KOME. Right?
Jeez, yeah.
That was one of them. The other one was, did you come today? KOME. You know,
yeah.
stuff like that. All right, so from there was a contest. We were run by Infinity Broadcasting, which owns several hundred stations throughout the country. And Howard Stern was looking for people to intern for his movie, which he was filming, called Private Parts.
Yeah, I love that movie, by the way.
Right. So, we all submitted tapes. Everyone submitted tapes from around the country. And I was one of 4 DJs nationally that won the right to be an intern to his movie, Private Parts.
Are you serious?
That was one of the
That is so cool, man.
Right. Well, from there, my whole life has been around music.
Yeah.
And like when I was like 15 years old, man, I mean, the first person that got me into music was Ronnie Montrose, who was in a band called Montrose with Sammy Hagar.
Nice.
And he was doing a tour. He started a new band. It was called Gamma. And he needed someone to help him, tour and do things like that. And I said, yeah, I'm totally up for it. And he's like, well, you're only 15. And I said, I don't care, man. I'll do whatever it takes. He says, well, I need to talk to your parents. So he calls up my mom, and he's telling my mom the whole thing. My mom was like, you know what? If you can take him for 2 months, 3 months, please get him out of the house. And so that's kind of how, my life really just started. I was just blessed by, from day one, hanging around people that were famous, musicians, showing me the way, introducing me to others. And that's kind of how it all grew. But to get back to the radio thing, after I got back from New York, working on the Stern Show, this is in 1998, I started, doing what's that?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when I came back like in 1998 from the show, I was really on fire now, because now I had a little background in everything what I was doing. I grew up, playing metal in the Bay Area. I had my first album out that I had put out, and now things are really rolling for me. Well, I kept going with music. I kept going with radio, and I ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, and that was about 15 years ago. Now, when that happened, nobody up here really knew me in Portland or Seattle, because I never really hit this area. No one knew me here, so I had to kind of start over. But there was one guy that gave me a chance. His name is Wayne Roche from KOUV in Vancouver, Washington. I told him my background. He just looked at me like, man, you're a bullshitter. And I said, actually, no, I'm telling you the truth. That's why I hate telling my story to people, because it's so fantastic sounding, but it really is true. and so he said, okay, I'll give you a shot. And when I went in there, I started out, I think we had something like 20 listeners, the very first show I ever did there. All right. Well, within, I think it was like 2 months, it went from those 20 listeners to just hundreds of listeners. All of a sudden, I was like the biggest thing in Portland.
Wow.
And then from there, yeah, and we're talking now, this is the first year of Thrash Zone. And the way I did that was, I kept coming up with the most outrageous guests that I knew in my repertoire of people that I know over the course of my career.
Yeah.
So I think the very first show I had was Phil Demmel from Machine Head. I had Greg Christian from Testament. I had Ivan DePrune from White Zombie. And then I had a local band called American Roulette from Portland. That was my very first show. And, it just, after that, it just blew up. So now we just fast forward to where we are today. Now it's 7 years after I've done Thrash Zone.
Yeah.
And it's just outrageously popular. It's streamed in 129 countries. We're played on 4 stations. I've now been in 2 movies. One movie is The Mentors, Kings of Sleaze. And you know, and it's just one thing after another. It's just great. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it, and I'm just happy each and every week to be able to present Thrash Zone to the listeners. And my idea of Thrash Zone, by the way, was simply to get the biggest names in metal and mix that up with bands that are just starting out but were good, and putting them on an even format. So,
amen, dude.
You know, I would put a band like Insanity's Reign together with, you know, the same night with a band like, say, Violence.
Yep.
And that way, you know, you would get huge coverage that normally you wouldn't get.
Bro, preach, dude. Exactly. I love it.
Right.
You just made me slam my fist on the table. Exactly, dude. I literally love that right there, because like that's what I'm trying to start here on like my show, is like, you know, I'm trying to get like some big guests and then mix it up with the local, so you know, that way, you know, we build up listeners, and a lot of people who would normally tune in for a big listener would also tune in for the local band, you know, and it's just more exposure for them. It's the same way kind of like a big festival happens, you know, you have your two big headliners and then you have all your openers, you know, and all the headliners are getting all the exposure to the openers.
Yes. Yeah, and the longer you do this, you know, the more people you'll meet, you know, the more people you'll have on your show, and then, you know, your reputation will follow you. And, you know, there's people out there from bands all over the world that I've now had on my show. Literally, whenever they come into town, or, you know, I've even had guys fly me out to shows like in Los Angeles, for example. Don Doty, who was formerly of Dark Angel, he started a new band called Eliminate, and it was an all-star band. It had like people from Whiplash, Hyrax, all these other old school bands, all mixed into one. It was like a super group. Yeah, I got pictures of that. I can show you sometime.
I believe you, man.
And, you know, yeah, they flew me down there, and what I do is I played their show live over the air, and I think it was called Grindcore. And it was just an excellent night. It was like all killer death metal, thrash metal bands, you know, mostly from the LA area, but also from around the world. You know, and then just doing things like that, you know, your name gets heard, people start to recognize, and, you know, pretty soon they come chasing after you. You don't got to chase after them so much. So now whenever bands, you know, whenever they got like a single that they want to put out, or they have a new album, or to be playing in the Seattle area, who do you think they call first?
Billy Boldt.
Thrash Zone. Right. They call Thrash Zone because they know I have all the listeners for the entire Northwest. You know, my coverage goes from Seattle all the way to San Francisco, you know, mostly. But then it spreads out, you know, the rest of the country. But that's pretty much where I cover, is that West Coast right there.
Yeah.
So it's just worked for me. It was just a dream I had, and, you know, I've been very passionate about it, and it's been successful. You know, you just got to make it work.
Dude, I honestly, hearing this story is truly inspiring, dude. And even listening to how hard you're grinding is like making me like want to go home and just grind super hardcore, dude, because it's like it's people like you that like really inspire people that just started off like me. You know, I started off 2 years ago, and you know, I've always been just a social guy, so I just kind of like fell into it, but now it's like a dream come true, and hearing you. So what I want to ask is, like, before you started radio and kind of like put calm down on music a little bit, were you always just like a social person? So when you started radio, did you think you could hop right back into it? Or was there like a small, like, little learning curve that you had to learn? Like, were you ever shy your first show, or you jump right in?
All right. Honestly, the answer to that is no. I've never been shy.
Yes.
That's why, like me, I'm a lead singer. That's what I do when I play metal. So I mean, like, I've just always been, you know, even when I was a little kid in school and I did like little acting plays and stuff, I was always a lead character. So I never really had shyness. I never really got, you know, I mean, I always get stomachs before a performance, butterflies in your stomach, but I was never really out, you know, nervous.
Yeah.
I could still always perform. Yeah, so I mean, no, I was always out there, you know.
Yeah, no, dude, that's freaking awesome, dude. So, before you got into radio and started going into college, did you have any like radio heroes? Because I know, like, dude, like when I'm driving, you would think, you know, I'd listen to music, but I listen to radio all day while I'm driving. Did you have like any heroes growing up that you were like, you know what, I want to be kind of like that guy, or like you listened to like somebody on the radio and kind of like took notes?
You know, yeah, absolutely there is. But the weirdest part about that is, although these were people that I listened to and admired at first, the style that I have is nothing like what theirs were.
Okay.
Now, some of the people I listened to were, of course, Howard Stern.
Yep.
And also in San Jose, there was Dennis Erectus. There was Lamont Antonelli and Stephen Seaweed.
Mm-hmm.
And these were all Bay Area people, you know. And that's really, that got me interested in radio. I mean, radio was just kind of an accident because...
It's a beautiful accident.
What's that?
I said it's a beautiful accident.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I never expected it to really blow up the way it did. I always knew that I had a good idea, but I just didn't know how far it would go. I never really thought that it would come to the point where it is now, where I'm actually in movies, doing TV shows, doing metal shows. You know, I mean, I'm all over the place. You know, it's great. And here I am on the metal mixtape. You know, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Dude, well, dude, of course, man, and that's so awesome, and yeah, dude, I totally agree, you know, and it really, you really do have your own style, man. But when I listen to your show, like I was just like I said, I was just all psyched up, man. Like you were just going off, dude, and I was just like, man, this is so cool, man. That's why I say, like,
you know what it is? I'll tell you how I'm able to do the show the way it is, because I have made it to where I don't answer to nobody. I own my show. I have 30 different sponsors that sponsor my show. I have a radio station that's now owned by one of my best friends, you know, and I'm the general manager. So, you know what, and I can swear and I can do whatever I want, nonchalant. And also, you know, I can play whatever I want. Now, but here's the thing, though, that's really strange is when I first moved from San Francisco to Portland,
yeah,
and eventually Seattle, nobody in the Northwest knew who I was. They didn't know. They only knew me as the DJ, but not the musician. And then everyone in San Francisco only knew me as the musician and not the DJ. So it took a while for the two to kind of cross over. But now that they did, you know, now I got people going, oh yeah, that's the same guy that's in this band, and you know, so it's all worked out.
Dude, I love that, man, and I truly admire your work ethic and all that. Was there ever a point where like you felt like everything was just getting too much, or does anytime you get on your radio show you just feel like re-inspired? Because I know from like experience, it's like sometimes you try to take on too many tasks and you know, you get burnt out sometimes and you want to like chill out. Is the Thrash Zone, is that kind of like I always say my radio show is like my antidepressant. It makes me happy. Yeah. I could be having any type of day, and as soon as I get on the radio, I'm just super happy. Is it something similar to you?
You know, there's usually never a time when Monday comes. Like, a lot of people go, oh, it's Monday, and they look at it as a downer because they got to go back to work and this and that. But I get excited every Monday when my show's on from like 6 to 10 or 6 to 11, whenever I finish. And it always seems like right when it hits 6 o'clock, I'm lit up. And even if I had a bad day, I could have been yelling with the old lady or whatever, or anything. But I always get psyched up, and I always have a great show, and I don't let nothing get in the way of that. You know, and yes, there has been times where, you know, of course, when I've just been burnt out. But you know, what I do is I work all year long, And at the end of the year, I take a 2-week vacation, and sometimes 3 weeks. And then that's really all the vacation I take, because the rest of the year I'm moving around. I'm going city to city. I'm broadcasting live events. I'm doing movies. I'm shooting films, videos. You know, I'm always busy. You know.
Yeah, dude.
So that's really it's all up to you, and you know, and what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I like to help people that are just starting out. I like to help bands get heard, discovered. And the reason why I bring them on the show is because I want people to understand who these people are that they hear singing.
Yep.
Who that guy is that's playing drums. You know,
Yep.
I want them to know what kind of equipment that they're using. If for musicians listening, hey, what kind of gear do you have? You know, and then they tell you. You know, and if there's any like secrets or something that they learned in the studio, I want them to, you know, reel that off too. That way people can learn.
Yep.
You know, and so it's not just a show where you're just hearing your favorite guy, you know, but you can actually learn something from it too.
Absolutely,
So,
dude.
Dressing is a lot of things, but that's basically what it is in a nutshell.
Dude, that's awesome. So, we're getting down to the last 7 minutes of our interview. I got a couple last questions to ask of you.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a turning point moment in your radio career, like a big interview or like a big monumental show that like really inspired you and kind of gave you an idea of like, wow, like this is going to a crazy spot where I didn't expect it to go? Like, was there a big interview that kind of set it off for you?
Yeah, that would be the one I was telling you about with Dark Angel, the band Eliminate, because when they flew me down to Los Angeles,
Yeah.
to do 2 live shows, broadcast it live, do a DVD, I didn't really expect that. That came out of nowhere, you know, and they did that just based on my reputation and what they heard. You know, I didn't know John Doty, who's the original vocalist for Dark Angel. I didn't know him until he contacted me and said, "Hey, I heard your show Thrash Zone. I love it. And how would you like to come to Los Angeles?" Like, sure. You know, so that kind of was the turning point. Now it's like, that was about 6 years ago.
Dude, that's awesome, dude. And a question I'm gonna ask, but it's more like a question from me personally, is what kind of advice do you give out to DJs that haven't been doing it as long as you? Like, is there any advice you'd give to maybe somebody like me?
Well, I guess what I would say is, you know, the first thing you got to do is find out what your groove is. Like I when I listen to old shows of Thrash Zone, it's entirely different than what it is today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically the same. It was the same idea, the same format, but it was done differently, and it was more ghetto. So my advice would just be, you know, just to keep plugging along, and you keep building your equipment, and, you know, getting all your stuff to, you know, put together your contacts, and, you know, eventually you find who you are, who you want to be.
Yep.
You know, and when you find that, you'll know, because all of a sudden it'll just be like a spark will light up, and you'll just be excited, and people will be excited to be around you. I never have a problem getting guests. I always have a full house when I want people over, you know, to do the shows with me. It's always an event, because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the scene. You know, and there is no I in team, right? So it's for everybody. So I have a co-host, I have a commentator, I have a video editor, I have an engineer, all part of my team. And they're all people here in the Seattle scene that are all excited, just as I am. And we know that we have this really golden opportunity with Thrash Zone, and we make the best of it. You know, and we feature bands each and every week, and sometimes there'll be bands you've never heard of, and a lot of times they're bands that just knock you out of the park. I've had Kiss on the show. I've had everyone on the show.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude,
I even had Judas Priest on the show.
Well, then it's truly an honor, man, and I appreciate you taking time out of your night tonight to be on the Metal Mixtape, dude. This interview has been awesome. I learned so much about you that I would have never learned just seeing a face on Facebook. You know what I mean? And I think one of the beauties about being on the radio is that you meet so many people that you would never meet in your entire life. Like literally people from around the world you would never talk to about. You would never find out things about people and bands that you would find, you know, if you didn't ask questions like this. So, you know, after talking to you today, I've truly, my respect for you is tenfold, brother. And I love your show. Keep doing your show. Keep doing what you do. And thank you so much for being on the Metal Mixtape.
Well, I want to thank you very much for having me on the show. And for all your listeners, you can listen to Thrash Zone every Monday night from 6 to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on www.kouvradio.com. And thank you very much.
Hey, you have a good night, Billy Boldt. And I mean it about when the coronavirus is gone, I'm going to drive up there and we're going to have a beer.
You know what? I'm looking forward to it.
Have a good night, brother.
All right, you too. Thank you for having me on.
And that was Billy Boldt from Thrash Zone. That was amazing, man. I love it when man, I just talk to people that just inspire me like that. I'm so inspired right now. I just want to go home and grind. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this awesome interview here on the Metal Mixtape on KSKQ 89.5 Ashland, Oregon, 94.1 Medford, Oregon. Stream online on the KSKQ